Imagine being a kid, but people treat you like you're all grown up. That's what's happening to a lot of black children, especially girls. Take Blue Ivy, Beyonce's daughter, for example. She's just 12, but when she wore a beautiful fancy dress to a movie premiere, instead of people to come together and congratulate her for her achievement, instead, people thought this was the best time to sexualize and adultify a 12-year-old. Really? Can kids be allowed to be kids despite their skin color, despite their race or their ethnic group? Because for some reason, people often see black girls as older than they really are. They might think that a black 12-year-old is more mature or more sexual than a white 12-year-old. It's messed up, or it happens a lot. And one thing people don't know is that this can really mess with the child's head. Because imagine always being told that you're too grown or that your clothes are too adult when you're just trying to have fun and just be yourself. It can make children very confused, sad, or even ashamed. But for Blue Ivy, it's even tougher because she's famous. People are always watching her, always judging her, what she wears, how she acts. But one thing people forget is that she's literally a kid. She should be able to wear a pretty flowy gown to a movie without everybody freaking out. And it's even weird because she's not even your child. This is the sexual exploitation and the adultification of the black girl child, with Blue Ivy Carter as a case study. That being said, let's get straight into this video. Guys, normally I'll introduce myself, but honestly, I'm just going back from like a 12-hour shift and I am tired. It's literally almost 1 a.m. But let's get straight into this video. Part 1. Understanding adultification. Adultification is a very heavy topic, but it's something that we really need to talk about, especially when it comes to how black girls are perceived and treated. At its core, adultification is the idea that black children, particularly girls, are seen as older than they actually are. This isn't just about physical maturity, but it also includes unfair assumptions about their behavior, their independence, and even their understanding of adult topics like sex. It's a lens that distorts the way society views black girls, and this strips away the innocence that is freely granted to others. Take a moment to think about it. Childhood is supposed to be a time of wonder, a time of mistakes and learning. But for black girls, that phase of life is often cut short. Research consistently shows that adults tend to see black girls as more adult-like than white girls. Like literally. Is not debatable. They are perceived as more responsible, more independent, and disturbingly, more sexually mature. This isn't just an abstract concept, it plays out in real ways. For example, in schools, where black girls are disciplined more harshly for the same behavior as other kids, or in the media, where black girls are subjected to a level of scrutiny that's completely inappropriate for their age. A recent example that hits close to home is Blue Ivy Carter. She's a child, full stop. But her presence at events like the Mufasa, the Lion King premiere, it sparks discussions that went just too far beyond a simple admiration for her sense of style and her confidence. Instead, some people scrutinize her outfit choices and her demeanor as though she were an adult making calculated decisions about how to present herself to the world. When people look at her through a distorted lens that conflates her clothing with sexual maturity, they are not just being unfair, they are perpetuating a harmful narrative that has followed black girls for generations. To understand where this comes from, we just need to look at history. Adultification of black girls didn't just appear out of nowhere. It's tied to long-standing stereotypes that have been weaponized against black women and girls for centuries. The Jezebel stereotype, for instance, it portrays black women as hypersexual and always available. And this is a narrative that was born during slavery to justify the exploitation of black women's bodies. There is this strong black women trope which paints black women as endlessly resilient and self-sufficient, often to the point of denying them their vulnerability or their humanity. Both of these stereotypes, they feed into the way society views black girls, not as children who need protection and nurturing, but as mini adults who are somehow responsible for themselves. This skewed perception has real consequences. When black girls are seen as older, they're often held to higher standards of behavior and they are judged more harshly for their actions. Think about a black girl who gets into trouble at school for something minor, like let's say talking back to a teacher. Instead of being seen as a child who is testing boundaries boundaries or expressing frustration, she might be labeled as disrespectful or even threatening. These labels, they follow her and they impact the way that teachers, administrators, even the law enforcement treat her. It's part of why Black girls are disproportionately suspended or expelled or even criminalized in ways that other kids aren't. And then there is the issue of sexual exploitation. When Black girls are viewed as more sexually mature than they really are, it opens the door to all kinds of danger. Society is less likely to see them as victims when they're exploited, and they're more likely to blame them for their circumstances. For instance, a Black girl who experiences abuse might be questioned about what she did to invite it, as though a child could ever be responsible for that kind of violence. This is the dark side of adultification. It doesn't just rob Black girls of their childhood, it makes them more vulnerable to harm. What's heartbreaking is that this isn't just about individual bias, it's literally systemic. It's in the way that media portrays Black girls, often amplifying their physical maturity or focusing on their attitudes instead of their talent and potential. It's in the way that our school treats Black girls as problems to manage rather than students. It's in the way that society as a whole just fails to protect Black girls, whether it's by dismissing their struggles or refusing to see them as the children that they are. But this isn't the whole story. There's a growing movement to challenge these harmful stereotypes and make space for Black girls to just be kids. This starts with how we talk to them. When we see someone like Blue Ivy, instead of overanalyzing her outfit or her demeanor, why not celebrate her as a young girl who is growing up in a unique, high-profile world? Let's admire her creativity and confidence without imposing adult expectations on her.
If I told my younger self that I was in a movie, I'd never believe myself.
And for everyday Black girls who aren't in the spotlight, let's push for changes in school, media, and communities that ensure that they are treated with care, respect, and the understanding that they deserve. Part 2. Blue Ivy Carter and the racial double standards of celebrity childhood. From the moment Blue Ivy Carter, the daughter of Beyoncé and Jay-Z, entered the world, she became a target of unwanted scrutiny. This isn't just about being a high-profile celebrity child. It's about how race informs the public perception and treatment of her. Whether it's commentary on her appearance, her dancing, or her fashion choices, the criticism that's been leveled on Blue Ivy often feels harsher and more persistent than her white counterpart experiences. That being said, let's break down some key comparisons to see how these double standards play out. First of all, let me take you guys back to memory lane. It's very hard to forget the shocking audacity of some grown adults who thought it was wise enough to critique Blue Ivy's natural hair, her facial features, all this when she was just an infant. So in case you guys do not know, people on social media and even public figures, they made cruel jokes. They called Blue Ivy's hair unkempt and they compared her features to her father's in a way that were far from complimentary. A Black girl. They spoke on her natural God-given hair. And here is the thing, babies are babies. They drool, they giggle, they have chubby cheeks, and yes, they have natural hair that grows however it pleases. Yet, Blue Ivy, she faced a level of scrutiny that white celebrity babies or even mixed-race babies in the industry never encountered. This wasn't just about nitpicking, it's a reflection of deeper biases against Black features and natural hairstyles. Let's fast forward to Blue Ivy at 11 years old, joining her mom on stage during the Renaissance tour, and while many people marveled at her confidence and presence, other people harshly critiqued her dancing as if she was auditioning for Broadway. Imagine if this was a white child who came out to just perform and just did all they could and did not even reach the level of dancing that Blue Ivy did. Trust me, she would be praised because they'd be like, oh my god, she's just 11 years, she's showing up and she's giving it her all, y'all should be appreciative. Think of how much positive reinforcement white celebrity kids like Maddie Ziegler or Jojo Siwa received even when they were just starting out. With Blue Ivy, the expectation wasn't just for her to dance well, it was for her to be flawless. And this is proof again of the impossible standards placed on Black children even when they are still learning. Now let's come to recent event. At the Mufasa, the Lion King premiere, 12-year-old Blue Ivy, she stole the show in a gold gown and she exuded elegance and confidence. Yet, instead of celebrating her style, some people still critiqued her. Some critics, they deemed her dress inappropriate. Let's pause there. This is a child at a movie premiere wearing an age-appropriate gown with her family. Compare this to young white celebrities like Ariel Winter or Miley Cyrus, who often wore similarly glamorous outfits at the same age without the same level of scrutiny. The backlash against Blue Ivy's attire just highlights a tendency to hypersexualize black girls, viewing them through a distorted lens that sees maturity and sensuality where none exists. One of the most pervasive issues that Blue Ivy faces is the adultification that is common to black girls. There's been so many research that has shown that black girls are often perceived as older and more responsible than white girls, which strips them of the innocence and the carefree nature of their childhood. Blue Ivy has been subjected to the same bias, with people interpreting her confidence and poise as signs of she's somehow grown for her age. Are you people okay? Meanwhile, white celebrity children like Millie Bobby Brown are more likely to be seen as age-appropriate even when they exhibit similar level of composure in the public eye. Social media, while a powerful tool of connection, has been merciless to Blue Ivy right from when she came out of her mom's womb. From memes, yes, she had memes made about her, to unkind tweets. The commentary on her every move has been relentless and most times is very, very cruel. While all celebrity kids face public scrutiny to some degree, the intensity of the criticism that has been directed towards Blue Ivy just feels disproportionate. Whether you like it or not, I'm going to tell you this. This is a sharp reminder of how race plays a role in amplifying the negativity, with black children like Blue Ivy subjected to levels of ridicule that white celebrity kids are often spared. Blue Ivy isn't just expected to perform, she's expected to perform perfectly. Whether it's dancing or stage or how she carries herself at public events, the bar for her just seems impossibly high. And in case you come and be like, oh my god, because she's Beyoncé and Jay-Z's child, this is not unique to her as Beyoncé and Jay-Z's child. It's something that many black children face in various aspects of life. In contrast, white celebrity children are often given the grace to stumble, to learn, and to grow publicly. Blue Ivy's every move is dissected as though her childhood is some kind of public referendum on black excellence. Perhaps the most insidious aspect of the scrutiny that Blue Ivy faces is the hypersexualization that has been tied to her appearance. Some critics, they accused her parents of over-sexualizing her through her clothing. This is a harsh reality for many black girls who are often viewed through a lens that exaggerates their sexuality far beyond what's natural or fair. White children in similar circumstances, they rarely face the same level of judgment, and this reflects how radicalized stereotypes play into these narratives. Blue Ivy's experiences, they are not isolated. If Blue Ivy were white, much of the criticism that she's faced would likely not exist, or at least not in the same harsh and persistent form. Have you seen the difference between Blue Ivy and Northwest? When Northwest comes out and do this, they're like, oh my god, she's really her dad. She's her dad. She don't give a fuck. But with Blue Ivy, she can't even breathe without the next person turning and looking at her like there's something wrong with her. This disparity just highlights how black children are often denied the full innocence of childhood, burdened with adult-like expectations and unfair scrutiny. Her story should be a wake-up call. It's not just about one child or one family. It's about the systemic ways that society perpetuates this double standard, whether it's through media representation, speaking about this publicly, or even everyday interactions. We all have a role to play in challenging these biases and creating a world where children can grow up free from the weight of unfair judgment. That being said, let's move to part 3, hypersexualization in media society. The hypersexualization of black girls is one of those deeply ingrained issues that shows up everywhere, especially in media, in everyday conversations, and even in how people respond to children just being themselves. From a very young age, black girls are often seen not for who they really are. For example, they're not seen as kids with dreams, with talents, and unique personalities, but they are seen through a narrow lens that unfairly focuses on their body. It's not just harmful, it's exhausting, it's dehumanizing, and it's unfair. Let's take what happened to Blue Ivy at the premiere, and let's take this as a prime example. Here's a young girl just stepping out in confidence, showing her individuality through her outfit and her presence. But instead of celebrating her as a child that is growing into herself, some people couldn't just help but zero in on her appearance. And if you're one of those people that zeroed in on her appearance, you're very, very creepy. These people, they they turned what should have been a moment of joy and admiration into a conversation that was tainted with judgment. Why? Because society has this ingrained bias where femininity, especially black femininity, is often equated with sexualization. This isn't new though. It's been happening for decades and pop culture has played a big role in perpetuating it. Look at how black girls are portrayed in music videos, in movies, or even in TV shows. Too often, their characters are framed in ways that emphasize their physicality and their attitude rather than their depth, their intelligence, or their dreams. They are dressed up, they are made to move, or they are given storylines that sends a message. Their value is tied to how they look or how they fit into someone else's narrative rather than who they really are, aka Sukihana. What's so insidious about this is how it fits into a broader societal narrative. When black girls are repeatedly portrayed as older, more mature, or more sexually aware than they are, people start to believe it. This bias just shows up in how they are treated in schools, with black girls facing disproportionately higher punishments for things like dress code violations or just simply acting out. It also affects how society responds to them in vulnerable situations. A black girl who is exploited or harassed is more likely to be blamed for what happened than protected and supported. I didn't want to come out here airing my business, but I think I've said how I was sexually assaulted. I've been sexually assaulted for like 15 years of my life. And when it happened, there was a time that I was blamed. Like, I don't even want to come out and just talk about it. That's why this is really, really hitting me hard and making me pissed off. I was barely like 6 years. I was like 5 years old. And for some reason, I was blamed. This is a devastating impact of hypersexualization. It doesn't just distort perception, it robs black girls of their innocence and their safety. And I said this because even when this was a repeated action from different other people being assaulted as a child, I couldn't come out and say anything because I would be blamed. And this is what happens. This is why I don't get why people just come out and just sexualize children. Let's not forget how this hypersexualization just sidelines the true essence of who these girls are. It shifts attention away from their brilliance, their creativity, and their potential. Think about it. Instead of focusing on Blue Ivy's confidence, the conversation just became about her outfit. Instead of celebrating her as a talented young girl that is navigating the world under a massive spotlight, there are people that brought the conversation back to something as trivial and reductive as how she looked. Y'all are pissing me the fuck off. Like, I'm too tired to just bring out my emotion. This kind of treatment just sends a message, not just to Blue Ivy, but to black girls everywhere, that no matter how smart, how talented, or how accomplished they are, society will still find a way to bring it back to their bodies. Okay, let's just talk about the adults. I haven't watched the Wicked movie, but like, okay, the Wicked movie, obviously, Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, they went on this whole press tour that even till now, people are making satire out of it. Cynthia Erivo, she's a lesbian, she's beautiful, like literally, she is. That's how I want to look when I'm in my 30s, the glow up from how she was when she was younger to like now. Like, there's one thing when you're very confident, and obviously she has these long nails that I don't think I can ever do because like typing is not my forte and I hit my nails a lot. But when it comes to Cynthia Erivo, when she was having this interview, I think there was a time they were interviewing her alone, and someone asked her, how do you wash your bum?
Your hands. I couldn't tell if it was your nails were so long, if you were wearing some kind of hand thing.
No, my nails were done.
Nothing was happening with your hands.
Nothing was happening with my hands. I have very long fingers.
Yeah.
Very long fingers.
Yeah.
This is very
My nails
nice.
are very long right now.
Can I ask you a really crazy question? It's inappropriate.
Go on.
When you're wiping your butt.
I knew you would ask that question.
I
get
know, but
asked
everyone
all the
thinks it.
time.
No, everyone's afraid to ask it.
Because no one's afraid to ask it.
Oh, is everyone asking that?
Everybody asks that
All
question.
girls, though?
No, everybody asks that question.
Okay, yeah.
Very cliche.
And my answer is nobody uses just their fingers to wipe their backside. You use tissue.
Oh, sure.
Correct. And you wipe.
Yeah. I guess my question is, does the tissue go on the tip of the fingernails, or do you try to get the tissue on the
Pads of the
okay,
fingers.
Great. We're getting somewhere.
Yeah.
And then, okay. And then you're just feeling a little tickle of the nails on your crack of your butt sometimes?
No, because the tissue's there. You don't feel
Okay, so
none
you're
of
covered.
that.
I wonder, okay, what I would do if I were you is I would wrap my whole, I'd make a mitten.
I fold.
Okay.
Oh, you're a folder.
Yeah.
I bunch.
Now, are you offended by that question? Or are you like, I get it?
Well, I
You're
get
annoyed
it.
by it,
I'm annoyed by
understandably.
it. I'm like, come on, guys. But I get it. But it's also like, I'm a functioning adult and I've never walked around smelling like,
No one thinks that. In fact, everyone thinks you smell so good. It begs the question, how are you wiping your tush?
Very well.
What they're saying when they're asking is, I would never be able to wipe properly. It's a problem with them.
That's a problem with them. And here's the thing. There are people who do not have nails who need to check how they're wiping.
I agree.
Like someone just created a masterpiece and all you care about is how she washes her bum. How stupid can you be? How stupid can you be? How stupid? When black people create something that is a masterpiece, people don't focus on that. They want to focus on something different. When Kelly Rowland came with the movie, that movie that she did with Tyler Perry was the producer, people were asking her about Beyoncé. When it comes to black women, it's like when you achieve something, people are not ready to listen to that part of you. Instead, they ask you a very unrelated question. They just want to know something different about what you're actually really there for. Here's the thing. Black girls, they deserve so much more than this nonsense. They deserve to be seen as whole. They deserve to be seen as complex individuals with dreams, with quirks, and also with potential. They deserve to be celebrated for their creativity, their intellect, and their ability to navigate a world that often tries to define them by its biases. Media, they have a huge role to play in shifting this narrative. Imagine if, instead of focusing on appearance, we saw stories that showcase black girls solving problems, leading adventures, and dreaming big. Imagine if music videos and films gave them storylines that showed their humor, their strength, and their individuality without reducing them to tropes. It's also on all of us to challenge these biases when we see them. When a young black girl like Blue Ivy steps into the public eye, let's celebrate her for who she is. She's a confident kid that is finding her way. Let's remind ourselves and others that black girls are children who deserve the same care, respect, and space to grow as anyone else. And most importantly, let's listen to them, support the movements fighting for their representation and their safety. Hypersexualization isn't just a problem for the individuals that it targets. It's a reflection of how far we still have to go as a society. But by acknowledging it, calling it out, and actively working to change the way that we see and portray black girls, we can start to undo this unnecessary harm. And maybe, just maybe, we can create a world where black girls are free to be exactly who they are without the weight of stereotypes holding them down. Part 4. The impact on identity and self-perception. Adultification and sexualization don't just show up in how society treats young black girls. They seep into how these girls also see themselves. It shapes their sense of identity and self-worth in profound ways, in case you guys did not know. When the world places adults-like expectation on these little girls, it robs them of the freedom to explore who they are and to make mistakes without judgment. Instead of growing up with a sense of wonder and possibility, they're often burdened with a pressure to be mature before they're even ready to understand what the word mature means. Take Blue Ivy Carter, for example, because she's the case study for today's video essay. Growing up in the public eye is already a very unique challenge, but add the layer of scrutiny that she faces, it's a whole different level of complexity. Every outfit that she wears, every move that she makes is dissected and judged. Are you guys not tired? Are you guys not tired? Because I don't get it. Instead of being allowed to just exist as a kid, she's constantly navigating adult themes, whether it's how people comment on her appearance, how they compare her to others, or impose narratives onto her that have nothing to do with who she actually is. For any child, this kind of pressure would be overwhelming, but for a black girl, it's tied up in a history of stereotypes and expectations that makes it even harder to break free. This scrutiny doesn't just exist in a vacuum. It impacts how young black girls, including someone like Blue Ivy, just begins to perceive themselves. When society repeatedly tells them that they are too grown or places outsized importance on their looks, it's very easy for them to internalize those messages. Instead of seeing their worth in their creativity, their intelligence, or their kindness, they might start to believe that they are only valuable for how they appear or how mature they act. That's not just unfair, that's very harmful. That's why we have all these uncles that come and be like, oh my god, you're too grown for your age. That's not a compliment. That's low-key abuse. Research backs up what many people already know from experience. Adultification and sexualization can lead to serious psychological consequences for Black girls. Anxiety, depression, and low self-esteem are common outcomes as these girls wrestle with trying to meet impossible standards or push back against constant criticism. Social media only makes it worse. Imagine being 10, 12, or even 14 years and you're seeing strangers online just dissecting your outfit or making comments about your body. I know people think Blue Ivy is not on social media, but don't deceive yourself. She has her own private account. And one thing you guys should know is that this is not just hurtful, it can be isolating. It reinforces the idea that the world sees you through a distorted lens rather than a full, complex person. While Blue Ivy should be free to explore her personality, her interests, and her sense of style, the weight of public opinion can make that exploration feel risky. It's as if the world is telling her that she doesn't get to be a child. This isn't just a Blue Ivy problem, it's something that countless Black girls face every day. They're often told that they need to be strong or independent, even when they're still trying to figure out who they are. I'm sorry, I'm tired of being independent. I just want to be a baby girl. They're held to adult standards of behavior, like being told to know better. You should know better. And this often happens when they make mistakes that are perfectly normal for their age. And when it comes to how they look, they are judged more harshly than their peers, with comments that feel more like attacks than observation. And I'm speaking as someone who has gone through this firsthand. The critical discourse surrounding Blue Ivy, especially at the movie premiere that she just literally went to, is a glaring example of how society just imposes adult rules on young Black girls. Instead of celebrating her confidence and her individuality, much of the conversation just focused on whether her appearance or her outfit was appropriate. Think about that for a moment. A child at a celebratory event was subjected to the kind of judgment that are typically reserved for adults. This kind of reaction isn't just over the top, it's indicative of a larger problem in how we treat Black girls. Instead of supporting them, we critique them. Instead of giving them room to grow, we box them into these roles that they're not even ready to play. What gets lost in all of this is their humanity. Young Black girls, they deserve to make mistakes. They deserve to experiment with their identity. They deserve to exist without the world just weighing in on every move that they make. They deserve to have role models. They deserve to have mentors. And they deserve communities that uplift them rather than scrutinize them. And last but not least, they deserve to know that their worth isn't tied to how well they meet any other person's standards or expectations. For Blue Ivy and for so many other Black girls, the journey to self-acceptance shouldn't have to feel like a fight. It should be filled with moments of joy, discovery, and support. The way society reacts to them needs to change, because every child deserves to grow up knowing that they are valued for exactly who they are, not for what the world decides they should be. And that brings us to part 5, real-world consequences of adultification and exploitation.
How hard is it for you to be like a sex symbol too? Because you definitely are.
Well, thank you, but I feel like that's just always been the case, only because I've always been built like a little more ahead of my time.
I've touched about this in every other part of this video, but let me just speak a little bit more about this. The adultification of Black girls, they have devastating consequences in case you guys do not know. Now let's start with the educational settings. For example, in educational settings, they face harsher disciplinary actions and they are less likely to be seen as needing support, and they are often treated as troublemakers rather than children who need guidance. These biases can contribute to the school to prison pipeline, where Black girls are disproportionately funneled into juvenile and criminal justice system. In cases of sexual exploitations, Black girls are often denied the recognition of their victimhood. When they are trafficked or abused, society is more likely to blame them for their circumstances, and they perceive them as willing participants than coerced children. This failure to protect and support them just perpetuates cycle of trauma and neglect. And that brings us to part 6, the role of parenting and community. When it comes to protecting Black girls from adultification and hypersexualization, parents and communities are the first line of defense. Parenting in particular becomes an act of both love and resistance. Beyoncé and Jay-Z, for example, they have shown what it looks like to create a protective bubble for their daughter Blue Ivy, while also encouraging her to shine as her authentic self. I love how Blue Ivy just makes her mom proud. I love how Beyoncé blushes whenever she just sees her daughter. She's like, oh my god, this is my daughter. I love how she pushes her and just lets her be her. I'm saying this because in reality, the first daughters are always either neglected or they have so much on their head that they do not think that the first daughter has the potential or should even have the right to pursue her dreams, pursue her goals. Instead, she's meant to baby the rest of her siblings. So with this, I'm proud that Beyoncé, at least from what I can see, she's being a very good mom. Like, you guys are weird. Like, literally, Beyoncé and Jay-Z, they just got a house for 200 million. And you're there critiquing her child. Are you guys okay? Not you guys, but like, you guys know what I'm talking about. Their approach to how they handle their daughter just speaks to the importance of nurturing individuality and providing a safe space where children can grow without fear of being judged, misunderstood, or criticized for simply being themselves. One thing that stands out about their parenting style is their emphasis on open dialogue and intentions. Conversations about race, identity, and self-worth aren't just helpful, they are essential. When parents actively engage with their children about these topics, they equip them with the tools to navigate a world that can be unkind and unfair. For young Black girls, this means learning early on that their value isn't tied to how other people perceive them, but to who they are at their core. And that's a very powerful message that I need you guys to take from here. It fosters resilience and it builds confidence even in the face of societal biases. But parents can't and shouldn't do it alone. This is where the community steps in. In Nigeria, or maybe in Africa, I don't know, but I know mostly in Nigeria, there's this proverb that says, it takes a village to raise a child. And this is especially true, especially when it comes to combating something as deeply rooted as this adultification and the sexualization of Black girls. Communities, they play a role, and this role is very crucial. They play a crucial role in creating environments that uplift and protect children. Imagine if every educator, mentor, and neighbor was committing to affirm the innocence, the brilliance, and the potential of Black girls. That kind of collective effort will just make the world a different place. Our thing is, education is key. Programs that raise awareness among parents, teachers, and community leaders about the dangers of adultification can shift perspective. When people understand the real-life consequences of their biases, they are more likely to approach these situations with empathy and care. That takes us to part 7, a call for societal change. The role of parenting and community support can only go so far if society as a whole refuses to change. The backlash that Blue Ivy faced at the premiere, it wasn't just a one-off moment, it was a reflection of a larger issue that just affects countless Black girls. I've said this so many times and I've emphasized this so many times in this video for you guys to know, it's not just Blue Ivy. Blue Ivy is what we can see. There are people that you can't see, that you don't know. There is me coming out to tell you that I went through the same shit. And if we want to dismantle the adultification and the sexualization that fuels this kind of scrutiny, we have to confront the root cause. First, we need to challenge the stereotypes that lead Black people to view Black girls as older, more sexual, or more independent than they really are. These stereotypes, they are rooted in racism, they're rooted in sexism, and they've been around for centuries, but that doesn't mean that we are stuck with them. If someone is trying to adultify your child and hypersexualize your child, I don't want to say punch them, but should I say educate them? Because how can you as an adult know that that's even weird behavior? Advocates for racial equity, they need to keep pushing for conversations that unpack how these biases just show up in everyday life, from the media we consume to the policies that are being placed in our schools. Media literacy is also a very great place to start, because even the shade room, they are so shady. They always post this because they know that people are always going to talk. They post all these pictures and all these videos and then they act like they don't know what the fuck is going on. They know people will talk, they know people will scrutinize Blue Ivy. When people understand how stereotypes are perpetuated in movies, in TV roles, in music videos, and even in news coverage, they're better equipped to recognize and reject harmful narratives. At the same time, media creators, they need to step up and prioritize positive, multifaceted representation of Black children, showing them as the kids that they are, full of joy, curiosity, and potential. Educational institutions, they also have a role to play. Schools should teach about racial biases and the ways that they intersect with gender. They should help students understand the importance of empathy and equity. This kind of education doesn't just benefit Black girls, it creates a culture of understanding that benefits everyone. Conclusion: Blue Ivy's experiences serves as a mirror, and it reflects back the biases and the challenges that Black girls face daily. The scrutiny that she endures as a child of immense privilege and visibility just shows how deeply ingrained these issues are. If even she isn't spared, imagine what ordinary Black girls deal with in their schools, in their neighborhood, and even online. But her story offers a blueprint for change. By acknowledging and addressing the adultification and the hypersexualization of Black children, we can begin to rewrite the narrative. Parenting, community support, and societal shift, they all play a part in creating a culture that values innocence and individuality over harmful stereotypes. When we protect the childhood of Black girls, we're not just doing right by them, we're building a better world for all children. One where they're free to grow, they're free to dream, and they're free to thrive without fear or prejudice. In the end, it's about more than just protecting childhood. It's about creating a future where every child, regardless of their race, can walk into a room, a classroom, or even a red carpet event and be seen for who they truly are, whole, deserving, and unapologetically themselves. And that being said, that's the end of this video. Please guys, kindly like, share, subscribe, please. I'm not gonna lie, the way I'm tired today, this video deserves 5 million views. So that was my first day of my job physically, but like my second day working for the company, and oh my god, like I am so tired. Like I'm so tired. Finished work at 10:30 and I came home like past 11 to 12, and because I'm going to like be working for the rest of this week, I'm like literally so tired. Like I can't wait to have YouTube full time, because honestly that is literally my goal, and just put my all into creating content. Like that's my dream. Please, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. Drop a white emoji representing my beads. So please drop a white emoji if you made it to the end. Thank you guys so much, and hopefully I didn't sound too tired or too down. But that being said, see you guys next week, and I love each and every one of you. Till next time, bye.
I feel like this is just a great experience for me, and I'm really happy for girls that look like me all around the world are able to watch this movie and hear and see themselves in it.